Yeah. When I first received the email, the first and still probably the most poignant example, if that's the right word, uh, and it's really gendered if we're gendering using the um, well, you know what? Actually, there has been one transmasculine, so assigned female at birth, but is a male. So really, I've only heard it from people that have vulvas and vaginas. When it gets time to do the exam, when they're undressing or as I come in and we're about to start the assessment, the comments that I hear are either something along the lines of, um, like the strongest one is, "I'm so sorry you have to do this." Yeah, yeah. So there's that. And then there's often comments or concerns around, have they, sorry, I didn't cleanse, or I didn't shower, or I didn't shave or prepare and sometimes often it's around the genitals, but sometimes they'll say, my legs, I didn't prepare. Um, but yeah, feeling that they had to present or be a certain way to be acceptable, essentially. Yeah. So what I often say, um, in different variety of ways, but that there's no need to apologize. Um, that all bodies are good bodies. I have a sticker on the back of my laptop that says the same. Um, that I knew what I was getting into when I chose this line of work, and um, I'm not worried about um, any presentation like what and then I often say I have three kids as well too. So, and clients or kids or myself, like pee and poo and menstrual fluid and all of these different things. It's all different functions of the way that our bodies work, and that's why I'm helping people in this area, because when things aren't working well, it can be really difficult. So really helping to alleviate that I'm not concerned, but knowing that, that's not really the root of it. It's there. So hopefully that will help some, but reassuring them that there's nothing wrong with their body, that there's varying degrees of normal, and that my goal is for them to feel as safe and as comfortable as possible in their body and in the appointment, and validating that they have difficult feelings that are coming up that, are likely rooted. Like, we're not born with this shame and feeling like there's something wrong with our bodies. We're taught that. And so whether it's, we're steeped, and I will go into these conversations with people. We're steeped in our culture about different ways that we're supposed to look, whether or not we went to religious families or not, and what social media messaging and all of this. So identifying that it's really common, that they're not alone, and it's something that's they learned. It's a learned thing. It's not the truth. Absolutely. So definitely with positioning of their body, so keeping legs really close to start off with, um and you can tell when people are at a point where they don't have the shame, because they're just like, whatever you need. And and often, I do offer to people, when I explain everything and we get to the point of the exam, I say, if you're comfortable, I can stay in the room while you undress, but I can also leave and give you privacy. And it's interesting because most people say you can stay, it's no problem. And I mean, this is after taking, it's usually about half an hour history and education and all of that. So we're talking about all of this, and so they've got a sense of who I am, and all of that. But and a couple of people have said, it's more awkward when you leave. It's just easier if you stay here. But yeah, but if people are, I wouldn't necessarily pick up on it or say that if they wanted some privacy to undress, that there was shame in that. But when I go to, because one of the tools I use for assessment and treatment is surface EMG biofeedback. So there's electrodes that go on either side of the anus. So I got to get right in there, like grabbing buttock and pulling aside and plunk one on one side, one on the other. And then there's the exam, of course, as well too. So yeah, if people are really keeping their legs close together, um, along with the felt sense of how they're feeling, but that body posturing for sure. If I'm assessing or visualizing abdominals, if they're keeping their hands on their stomach or keeping their shirt pulled down and really trying to keep themselves covered, I would say is another way. And then, and there's different reasons, and again, because there are times where people have at rest, and that's part of what I'm helping people with, increased muscle tension. So at rest, just like we might tense our shoulders, this is our jaw, tense our jaw or our shoulders. There might be a holding tension in the pelvic floor because of pain they're experiencing. But and that's what the biofeedback picks up is the resting activity. But if people are feeling, and it's hard because is it nerves, is it shame, is it, first time they've met me and I put electrodes on their anus. But another potential marker of shame is their muscles holding more tension. And sometimes I see that and I see it for the first few minutes, and then you can see it calm down as I sense them calming down as well too. So that direct pelvic floor tension is another way that it shows up. Like right off the bat, when we're getting the history and I'm asking how can I help you, if people are using vague language, or what might they say? It's really neat because once they can sense that this is a place and a space where they can talk about this and I want to hear it all, like they might say initially, this might be TMI. And I usually go, listen, it's never TMI for me. And a lot of these things that you're telling me, I want to know and need to know. And I honestly would be asking these questions anyways. So sometimes there's that comment that they might say. Yeah, again, normalizing that like all bodies are good bodies. We all have everybody poops, everybody pees. That these are all common functions of our bodies, and if there's trouble with them, I mean that's why they're here, and that's what I want to help them with, and that they're not alone. Um, yeah, and honestly, often, and I gauge and ask if to make sure that they're comfortable. If I have a story, like a personal story that relates to what they're experiencing so that they can feel there's common ground, or without breaching anybody's confidentiality, saying, I've seen a lot of clients that experience this. I've done this for so many years, and I've seen this a lot, um, um, and there's lots that we can do. Like if it's a condition or something they're struggling with that they're feeling ashamed about and ashamed that their body feels like their body's betraying them, that kind of thing. And I feel like, this is just coming to me now, especially with pain conditions, with yeah, with any pain condition, there's often an element where people are frustrated and mad and feel shameful that they feel like their body's betrayed them. So what is been coming through in my practice and what's kind of coming together now is that this is a therapeutic, and I'll say it like this is a therapeutic interaction, especially if people have experienced shameful well, and a lot of them have, related to their condition, whether it's bowel incontinence or bladder incontinence, or if they've experienced sexual assault and things like that, that couldn't be talked about, or if they asked for help, that they were shamed and things. So that explaining that this is a again, I can't tell anyone that they are safe. Only they can know that they're safe. But doing my best to help provide that safe space, and where they can feel more comfortable, safe enough in their bodies with a trained professional, and learn how to slowly, at their pace, connect with their muscles in a way, in a safe space where they can regain some autonomy and make friends with their body, essentially, and befriend their body and start to rebuild that relationship. Because really, like, as your study is outlining, physiotherapy, yes, we're treating the body and the muscles, but people are whole beings. And this shame and all these different things come through and are exhibited in our bodies, in verbal and nonverbal ways, which is what we're detailing. So and actually some other examples are coming up as I'm thinking, like from the beginning of a session to the end of the session, if people are feeling shy or feeling shame, to see their transformation by the end, because often they may not know exactly what to expect. Like, they might have read online about what's going on, but it's that whole, they know the physical, the logistics, but I think it's really the emotional. How's that going to be held is often probably what people are worried about. And then so by the time that they leave, you can see that there's been a weight lifted and that their shoulders are more relaxed and things, as to what I do to help manage when that comes up is like, just like really just like open that space, like holding whatever it is that's coming up for them, and validating and normalizing, and helping offer different perspectives that might help them shift and feel differently about it. Because I don't want to tell them how to feel, and we can't do that. It's not gonna work. But yeah, and then offering, if there's common examples that other people have experienced that I've noticed, or myself, for that common humanity piece. Like with the presencing and reading them, and then taking space, or making space rather, and giving time for what might be coming up for them to come up. So if there isn't shame presenting, then that obviously wouldn't be happening. It also, though, it's interesting because there are some people where I sense, and again, I don't know because they're not telling me their experience, but just by reading their body language and how they're coming across. Some people, it feels like they're masking, they're highly masking and pretending everything's okay when it's not okay. And so if I pick up on that, then again, I really will slow down and just make space for, I just follow my intuition, like what might be coming up, and asking if they, I don't know, I can't think of any specific things that I might say. And then checking in with myself as well, because I'm learning to, as a late diagnosed neurodivergent, going through perimenopause, all these things, right? And really starting to understand my history, and actually learning / remembering who I am. I'm learning to unmask, which is not easy. So if I pick up on somebody masking, it might bring up something, a part in myself. And so I I might, check in with myself and acknowledge those feelings and be like, I'll come back and attend to you at another time, but don't worry, I hear you and see you. And sometimes I might share if it's related, or and if it lands, if it's relevant. Um, yeah, I would share common struggles, but yeah, really being mindful to, if we don't want to add additional shame, like really we're trying to undo it. And so like the whole thing with, I love the way that Brene Brown details it, right? Where guilt is feeling like you've done something wrong, like a behavior, and that can be healthy because there are times when we act out of accordance of our morals and values, and we do something, and ideally healthy behavior is owning that, acknowledging that, and making apologies if that was what people want or if that feels right, and then making amends. Whereas shame is feeling like there's something wrong with you, which again is learned, and that shame thrives in silence, and it with being talked about and safely, tenderly exposed is a strong word, but brought to the light, that's what can counteract. Hmm. Oof, yes, yes. Yeah. Okay, so it's neat. It's really cool to see my progression through all of this. It's been, yeah, and I'm just checking in because and I also think that this is healthy and good and the right time. Looking back, I think also I can see an undercurrent of why I got into pelvic floor physiotherapy, because when I was 12, I there was some sexual trauma, and um a lot of shame, a lot of shame. Like like the clearest thoughts I remember having were, I'm flawed. I'm flawed now, like dirty, and that like this isn't recoverable. Like I've permanently changed. I'm no longer innocent, kind of thing. And I can see now, there are different layers to it. There, the religious piece, and then with family of origin stuff, cultural stuff. Um, so it's been a lifelong journey, and I am making my way. I'm making some progress, and really what I've learning is that what I need and what I needed and that I didn't receive back then, and that I am learning to do now for myself and for that young version of me. What I needed was safety, and yeah, reassurance that, yeah, that my body didn't betray me, that my body did what it's meant to do and what it's supposed to do. And it's cool because this just came up last night. Like I feel it's starting to get a little bit quicker because the clarity with this, and with what I need, because yeah, the safety within myself is growing and getting more rooted. Was that what happens when I don't feel safe, is that I don't feel. I dissociate. I numb. And so what I do with that, and last night it was really cool because, I've had sort of different thoughts, but this it became embodied. And that what came up next was, of course, I would, if I didn't feel safe, that I wouldn't feel anything, that I would numb, because um, that's a protective mechanism, and that's the best that I had back then. Current day of like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and really like numbness and dissociating was an intelligent response, because that would have been way too much for my 12-year-old brain to manage on my own. And I'm here now, 45-year-old Laura is here now, and I can be the one to be and to support that young 12-year-old person, and all the really up until then, because the shame has continued for sure. And so honoring the intelligence of the nervous system and the protective parts, and that the situation is different now. So validating that, yeah, I needed to do that, and that we don't need to do that anymore because the system is more safe enough. That's another phrase that I've liked, safe enough, because it's a process. And the other one I really like, moving at the speed of trust. I like that one because it can change and ebb and flow every day. Yeah, so yeah, and especially with shame, because if moving fast is traumatic. And what I find overall is, and see, this is exactly it. This is me. Like, I chose this line of work to help other people, and also I need the help too. And so when I'm telling these stories of how I'm helping clients, I'm like, this, it's the same for you, Laura, of going slow and meeting their pace and their speed and what they need. Yeah, it might be. Yeah. Yeah, and that's that. Thank you. And that's good that the reflection is good. And also, I think that's sort of like kind of a gift. I remember the one of the first psychologists that I saw her for quite a while. I call her OG, like the original, but she said there are gifts and challenges in everything. So I think the gift in being in my past, and still sometimes comes up, hypervigilance and wanting to make sure everyone's feeling okay, because I know what comes up for me. So I think there's a gift in that, to basically be open that other people might be having uncomfortable experiences, not assuming it on them or projecting it on them, but that there's that potential. And so holding space for that and following their lead. This heavier stuff, I think is really important to talk about. And this is it, right? Because shame is heavy. And if people feel safe and resourced, it is helpful to discuss these things. It's a big antidote. So yeah, this is important work. This is really important work, because I really do believe that these are common experiences. We feel shame, we feel guilt, we feel these difficult feelings, and often shame, if we're stuck in that, it can block us from grieving, and from really, so when we can speak to it and realize that when we feel safe and we've got that support around us and within ourselves, it can really help strengthen those bonds, and allow us to help ripple out the healing, because the deeper that we've gone within ourselves, the better we are able to hold space for other people that need the support as well too. Like yeah, the shoving it down and the masking and the not talking about it, just it doesn't work, unfortunately. Yeah. The same that I do for clients. So what I might say is to myself, like inside, is that, like, I'm saying to myself, because I know that I am safe. This is hard to hear, and this is important, and because there is the young parts of me as well too. It feels really good for them when they hear that somebody else has gone through the same thing, and similar things, and that there is growth and healing. So I encourage myself. So a phrase I've been using is something like it's okay to stay, or stay with it, rather than trying to avoid or to distract, or think, or something else along those lines, because that was very much what I grew up around. um yeah, so yeah, acknowledging that it's difficult and uncomfortable, and um because in that sense it's those parts that are feeling shame and uncomfortable. When I do that, when I validate it, then they're seen and acknowledged, and then reassuring them that I'm here. 45, I'm 45, I'm 45, I'm not back in that 12. And yeah, and then holding space. I might visualize sitting with or being with my 12-year-old self as well too, and um apologizing that their care wasn't there, that was needed, and that I'm here now, and that we can we can do this together, and they're no longer alone. Um, because I think I'm realizing how alone I really have been. Like, people around, but not people that I could talk to about difficult things, where I would see seen and valued and understood, and really that's what I needed. So, and also acknowledging, not that it's an excuse, but acknowledging that like my parents, for example, are holding a lot of trauma, and they didn't really know what to do with it. So um acknowledging that, and that also still, that behavior was and is hurtful and harmful. And so yeah, and I'm not alone anymore. So yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. Exactly. And that's what we have to do with these things. We have to turn towards, in a safe and a gentle way, and honoring all that comes up, including rage and anger and all of these things. Like, those are all valid as well too. So allowing that to come up, and then finding um appropriate and safe ways to express that, and to discharge that, because we need to. So whether it's, physical activity, or yelling or screaming or talking about it, or art, or um sometimes just being acknowledged, that that's okay to feel that. For me, and I think this is all rooted in that I wasn't seen and heard and validated. I was just dismissed, or it was whatever was doubled down on, or distraction. So when I am myself feeling difficult things, or with other people that are feeling difficult things, it's actually, there's a reassurance, and it's sort of like a peace feeling, like a relief, like a, finally we can talk about this. Yeah. Yeah, there's a relief that comes with it. It's difficult, and it's a relief. It's like, I've been tired of holding this down, and or the person, you can tell that they're tired of holding it down, and it just feels so good to just, I'm getting big chills when I'm saying that, just to speak it. Yeah, and it's hard, because some people aren't going to like it. And if we've had when we were kids, if we were speaking truth and our parents didn't like it, that's difficult, because it threatens our attachment. So we might have had to learn to shut it down. But I really do feel that yeah, it's important, and we need to be able to find that way. Not that it's easy, but seeing them feel and hearing them feel empowered, having more knowledge and understanding about what's going on in their body, what the function that we're moving towards, and then that they've built and is starting to build a connection on how to volitionally control these muscles, and make change to positively affect their life, so increase self-efficacy. And that's really what I wanted to do in physiotherapy, um, because so it's good to see, just as I'm saying this, it's good to see that that thread is consistent. I want to help people help themselves, essentially. Yeah, I'm not here to fix people. I can help guide and translate the knowledge, but I recognize that people are their experts on themselves, and so helping them build that information about how their body works and how to connect and how to feel more autonomous in that. Yeah. So making sure I'm really clearly explaining what I'm doing, what I'm going to do before I do it, and like the history and the education component, really making sure that there's time and space, so that they feel comfortable about understanding about what's headed next, what the exam will entail, and why we're doing it. Um, and then again, just reading the room and reading a sense of how they're feeling comfort wise about the exam, depending on what they're coming in with, and offering alternatives if they don't feel, for example, ready at the first appointment for an internal exam for undressing. And so one of the other tools that I have is real-time ultrasound imaging. So we can image the bladder suprapubic and see the bladder and the pelvic floor. It's one tool and it gives us some information, and but it can be a place to start, or if they want to wait for the second appointment, for the assessment. Sometimes people choose that. Often people do want to do the exam, and they recognize and they will verbalize, sometimes before, but sometimes at the end, as we've finished, they'll say, I'm feeling a bit nervous, and then I'll acknowledge and validate that, like, that's totally normal. Like, we just met, and I'm gonna be putting stickers on your anus. Like, this is kind of interesting, and it is like totally, it's normal to be nervous. Or if they don't say anything initially, they may say it at the end, and they'll say, I was so nervous, I didn't know what to expect when I came in, but now this told all, and what they say is that it makes sense. And I think that's why I really want to take time to explain what we're doing and why we're doing it. It makes sense why we did it, and I can now see how to do these exercises, and um, so yeah, and then checking in along the way, like you're doing with me here as well too. Like I explain, like, one of the electrodes goes on the inner thigh, and then before I go anywhere near the anus, I explain. So I'll grab buttock and plunk one on one side, one on the other, and then when I do a vaginal exam, I'll explain it during the history and education, and then through the exam. And if I'm picking up that they're feeling anxious, this is especially if somebody has pain at the entrance of the vagina, I might touch their knee to start off with and show them how much pressure that I'll be applying, and reading and checking in with how they're doing, like what they're saying to me, but also picking up sense wise and watching their reaction if they're finding it's too much, and reassuring them that if they want to stop at any time, they totally can, and that I would rather them stop than override their nervous system and just push through. That's what we're wanting to unwire, and that we do not have to go fast, and then I usually bring up the moving at the speed of trust, and I want you to feel safe and comfortable. And often, and I've learned this too, which was hard, as I didn't believe it to start off with, that often going slow ends up being fast. Like, you build that safe and that rapport, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, it's okay, and then can just kind of take off on it. So it's not something that can be forced. And so and often it's neat. I had one client pointed out, I didn't realize that I was doing that, but I was happy that I was. Um, I was asking her, because sometimes people will say, and it might be depending on time too, but we could do the biofeedback, but maybe leave the internal exam for the next appointment. And so I remember I was at that stage where he had done the biofeedback, and I said, okay, so now the next thing I would normally do is an internal exam. And so we would map, like we would, and I would explain it again. And I said, and then they said something, and I interpreted it as, we'll leave it for next time. I was like, oh, that's totally fine. We'll leave it for next time. And they said, well, actually, it's okay. I want to do the exam, but I really like how you defaulted to leaving it for next time, like the safer option. I was like, fuck yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I did. Good job. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, really checking in as I go, and I feel like it's an paying attention, like it's a presencing and an intuition, because you can say the words and people might say yes. I remember I did this one workshop on consent. And the example that she gave was when you're at the dentist and they're like, okay, we're going to do this procedure and we're going to give you a needle. Do you consent? And you may verbally say yes, but your body's like, not really. Right? So following. So even if they say yes and I'm picking up on it, I might be like, it's reassuring it. It's totally okay if you want to leave it, or we can adjust it this way, or offering different options. Um, but yeah, because I really think it's rooted in order. Yeah, we really need that safety. Yeah, yeah. I know how difficult these exercises and controlling these muscles and even just talking about this for people can be. And so when they pick up on an exercise, or you can see that something clicked for them about what's going on in their body, um I get really excited. I'm like, yeah, look at you go. I'm like look at that contraction, and like, this is actually, really good. And there's so um celebrating celebrating what their body can do and is doing, and acknowledging their courage and strength to come in and do this have this interaction, this experience, and in order to help themselves, like just even the showing up is really important and valuable. So yeah, congratulating, reassuring, encouraging, normalizing, um and I think it really helps as well too that I've got the volume of like 15 and a half years of seeing all shapes and sizes and different body parts. I've got a book over here that says It Feels Good to Be Yourself, and another book that says The Bodies of Mothers, and it's stretch marks and just normalizing and the beauty of all of that. So um celebrating the diversity and the amazing capacity of our bodies and what they can do if we choose. For example, if we have a uterus. Um, oh my God, another shame one. Holy smokes, this is a big one. I can't believe I forgot this. When people are menstruating, there's so much shame around that. And often people will, and I've got it on my website and in a couple of places, but still get a lot of questions around, I've got my period. Is it okay if I come in? And yeah, my answer is absolutely. It doesn't change my assessment or treatment, and it's a part of how our body, functions, and we can create life if we so choose to. Um, but yeah, really normalizing and yeah, and then telling them I'm pretty sure that they found stem cells in menstrual fluid. Like, this stuff's miraculous. So yeah, so I hope that, so yeah, what I've got, the office, just being open with myself and who I am. Um, Pictures of vulvas. There's a card on the wall that says, to sending healing vibes to your vagina.
Nice.
So yeah, it's creating that trying to create that inclusive experience, that it's okay to be themselves and show up however they are feeling and however their body is functioning, and that I'm here to help. That's the reason that we're here, is to help the person understand about their body and what's going on, and how to help it, and their whole self. Yeah. It's I I love it, honestly, because and I think what's difficult for me, this is that question helps me understand when I can tell people aren't comfortable and they may be, I'm assuming, masking. Um, that can make young parts of me feel uncomfortable, because that's what I had to do. I had to hide and yell that. So when people are open and are feeling comfortable to share, and um, we're discussing difficult things, intimate things, um, I don't know what the phrase that's coming up is, like, I was built for this. Like this feels like home to me. Like I can hold that space. This is what I want, because I know that the deep healing comes from holding this and expressing this, and like, I'm not here to fix people. I really truly believe that we all have the capacity and have what we need within ourselves, but we might have armor around it or protectors and different things around it. So if I can help um hold that space. And it's interesting because it's against what typically is taught for like professionalism and things. Um, but I will often share tears with them. I will often, and again, gauging on how and checking in and with what I am saying and how much detail I may be expressing, but like sharing that, I have experienced sexual trauma as well, and that I struggle with shame as well, and that. So yeah, just really feeling it, holding space and feeling it along with them, and then sharing if it feels appropriate and relevant. Yeah, I'm hoping what they're learning is that their bodies are okay, and that it's safe to touch in with them, like to connect with them, and um, so that sense, and then like clinically, like really, I want them to be walking out with a clear understanding of how to access these muscles, how to do the specific exercises, knowing why they're doing the exercises and what we're heading towards. So having an actionable treatment plan, feeling that they've building self-efficacy, that they can do something to positively affect their life, and helping give them a sense of control. I often see it with people that have experienced, which is so many of us, um, sexual trauma, where there can be dissociation, like difficulty even connecting to that part of their body. Um, so then it's the same again, and that's what I would say, is that you normalize and validate. That makes sense, and of course you would. That's a protective mechanism, and that would have been too much for you to hold. And here you are now in a therapeutic environment with a trained professional, and you as an adult, if they're an adult, learning now how to reconnect to your body in a way where you get to choose the speed and the pace and the timing, and what's going to happen with the exam. So you're able to get that autonomy and that sense of control, and really going at the pace that the person needs. And it's neat because sometimes, when it does come up, so sometimes if people are needing to go really slow, and it feels like maybe might not be getting as done in the sessions as we could be, but then I recognize that that's from a part of myself that's worried about me not being enough and me not doing enough, and I'm not helping them enough. So recognizing that, and be like, it's taking care of that part and what they need, and then just really really going slow, going at the pace that they need. There's a levity. They're like, I know what's going on, and I can know now how to find that part, those muscles in my body, and they're excited because they're like, I can learn and do more and figure this out a bit more, and hopeful. Um, and I guess less, because often people are coming and feeling helpless, that these things are happening and they don't know what to do, and so they feel hope, and they also feel what they not helpless, whatever they I mean, I don't know if that's self-efficacious or whatever the right word would be, but there's a reduction in the hopelessness. They feel that they've got somewhere to start and some roots and they know where they're going.